Hey, spoiler warning. Oh, I like saying it right off the top. So, we're going to spoil Obi Wan Kenobi. That's right. The series that we've been, well, some of you, we had definitely have watched it on Disney Plus. That's where you see this kind of stuff. So, how you guys doing? Doing all right?
Doing good. Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday
Yes.
indeed.
We are recording this on a happy Friday. Um, so yeah, we're gonna talk about Obi Wan Kenobi. That mini is it a mini series? What do they call it? I have no idea.
Limited series.
Limited.
Limited series. We'll see about that. Depends on how much money it makes. That's the answer.
How many eyeballs
So
gets attached to it?
yep. So hey, right off the top, I mean, general impressions. You've seen all the episodes. I've seen all the episodes. What do you guys think of this?
I mean, I liked it generally. I mean, it's like from the start you could tell this is going to be a story about how Obi Wan got his groove back, and I think that they told that story pretty well. I mean, like the look of the series, acting was spot on. It's like got some nice Vader moments, and it was actually cool seeing Obi Wan finally become the come back into himself. Like,
So wait, what's wrong with Obi Wan's groove?
well, it's like he's just kind of bummed about the fact that his Padawan and best friend turned out to be it's like turned out to be like the um the Jedi who brought balance to the Force by killing all the other Jedi, or helping to kill them. It's like
Mhm.
he was working with Darth Sidious, and like he just felt that it's like, and Anakin felt that Obi Wan betrayed him, and Obi Wan just didn't know how to deal with that, and so he just, after like making sure Luke and Leia were safe, he just went into seclusion on Tatooine, just trying to just not screw things up anymore, and just like, I'm just gonna wait here until I can train Luke. It's like, and that's all I'm going to do. It's like,
It's kind of so this series is kind of like if you think about like the way the original trilogy kind of like pulled itself together. There's some things that you could infer just based upon like some of the script and dialogue, right? So one thing is like uh hey, there's this thing, it's Anakin Skywalker is Luke Skywalker's father, and all this, and then there's this whole thing about, like, okay, well, we can create this prequel story about how Anakin, what he was before he fell, or and Darth Vader rose, right? And how the Empire rose. So there's all that. But after that story was kind of made, then we also have like, hey, Obi-Wan's he's like a critical character in here, right? Like there's so much inferred just from the we'll call it episode 4, right? It's
mhm.
like, oh, okay. So he's sitting there telling Luke, all this stuff, Leia on the holo recording in A New Hope is sitting there talking about like, you helped my father, blah 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 blah, all this other stuff. So there's a lot of inference there. And so that's the stories that are being built now. And then after they came out with that prequel trilogy, you do have, it's like, well, now what? Well, we know that there's twins. We know that there's this intermediate period, and we know that he lives in the desert by himself for some reason.
Mm.
So, right, that's it, and that's what this story kind of starts off as, right? Although it's like 10 years later, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, 10 years later.
10 years later, So yeah, so yeah, so you you thought it was interesting? Is that what you're saying?
I liked it. I mean, I guess my biggest problem with the series was that it didn't tell us a whole lot we couldn't have already guessed for ourselves, or that we could not see where this is going. So like, I guess I kind of wanted more surprises. It's like from the story. I mean, I don't think it really did anything wrong, but I don't know. It's like like I said, it didn't tell anything that I couldn't have already guessed, for myself about how this was going to go.
Cool. So, Brian, do you have the same thoughts about it, or?
Yeah, I really liked this series a lot. Borderline, love this series. Um, for me, I thought this was a awesome epilogue to episode 3, and episode 3 is my favorite of the prequel trilogy. And growing up with Star Wars as a kid, obviously, Luke Skywalker, was always my favorite character, growing up as a kid. But then as I became an older, more mature Star Wars fan, I started really digging in with those characters that, had a little bit more dynamic, I guess, tragedy or background to them. And I've come to really grow into a diehard Darth Vader fan as I grew older, and I've always wanted to see Darth Vader in action, more so than we uh, got in the original trilogy, because back then the lightsaber battling was a little bit more of that kind of stiffer fencing style, and of course like Darth Vader kind of being a little bit more robotic. I felt always had like stiff moves, so I thought it was really awesome to be able to see a more modernized look at Vader in this series and see him have a little bit more of a visceral fighting style and a little bit more mobility in his movements and in the way he uses the Force. Like I really nerdgasmed getting to see that in this series. Um, you know, Kind of like touching on Jason's point. I mean, we kind of can connect the dots here between episodes 3 and 4 based off of what we know. But at the same time, you know, after Anakin donned the Darth Vader, persona, seeing how he became feared across the galaxy and seeing how he was portrayed as like merciless, like you really get to see that in this series, especially like his first trip to go track down Obi-Wan. I mean, there were scenes in that village section where I was like, oh damn, Disney, like I didn't think you would show something like that. And it really portrayed like, man, really this guy really is cold hearted and he doesn't give a shit anymore. So yeah, I really thought it was cool. I mean, obviously there were some weaker episodes than others, and points that kind of like maybe yawn a bit, but overall, um, at the end of this series, I hoped that this would generate enough buzz to kind of get a little bit more.
Okay.
So my overall opinion is that I think I'm more along the lines of I didn't nerdgasm for sure. I thought that it it not that it's slow. It's just kind of like it really didn't uh like jump out at me. I know the characters. I mean, we know Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru. We know those people. We know little Leia, you know, and we know little Luke. We know Obi-Wan. We know Senator Organa. We know these people, you know. Um it but I just think it's just it's kind of like the first couple of episodes were like there's more of an annoyance factor in the fact because Leia kind of comes off as like bratty in a lot of ways. And I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, all right. So you're just gonna run. We're gonna do this now. We're gonna do this thing where you're running away from Obi-Wan in the middle of this. Okay, this um this is it. This is and we're supposed to believe that you're gonna be in like certain danger. Like no, but it it's kind of like that part of the. I'd have to say that's kind of the thing where it's kind of weak, I think, in my opinion. But I think that overall, if we're talking about a series called Obi-Wan, how does it treat the character of Obi-Wan? Does it actually do it justice? At first I'm thinking, okay, yeah, well, boy, he sure is weak. Like, it's like, it's like he said, like, screw being a Jedi. Like, who needs this anymore? Like, he comes off just saying that, and we're like, okay, like, this isn't like Yoda. Like, Yoda didn't. I'm pretty sure Yoda didn't just go to Dagobah and say, "Screw being a Jedi, screw the Force, man." Like, but that's kind of the impression I get at the initial part of this. Like, I don't really care. It's not just like I've got to go and protect a kid. It's like, yeah. He even tries to convince the other Jedi. I think it's a Jedi that he sees in the first episode.
It
It's like,
is.
hey, you should just bury your lightsaber. And you see that he's buried his lightsabers, and I'm kind of like, okay, that's one way of doing it. So I think that was, and then, when you're talking about, um, his first run in with, like, Darth Vader, I mean, he's kind of emaciated, man. Like, it's like, this is a dude who is like running around. It's like, okay, I'm not even going to practice anymore. Like, screw practicing, screw the Force. I'm like, okay, was he just hiding it? Anyway, so that's kind of my, so if everything has to focus like on Obi Wan Kenobi, I'd like to talk about it, right? So it's like, all right. Um, so I'd have to say overall, I mean, I like the series. I didn't love the series. I think that it has some strengths. It also has some weaknesses when it comes to that. And I just talked about that. Some of the strengths, yeah, I did like most of what I saw for Darth Vader. Um, that's some good stuff there. I think that yeah, I think they credited James Earl Jones, but I think it's like they kind of mixed that voice up with like a little bit of like, I don't want to say deep fake stuff, but they like enhanced it, because I remember how he sounded like in Rogue One. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably straight up like James Earl Jones with a little bit of like the voice modulator, but not much. This one, I think that they kind of enhanced it a bit. It definitely sounds like that to me. I think the effects were good too. I like seeing like, Star Destroyers and things like that. Anyway, so that's kind of my overall. But so what did you guys not like? So I kind of described some of the things that I didn't like. What did you guys not like in this show?
Well, I guess kind of touching to your point as well, like, um, I think it was episode two where I was starting to get a little bit annoyed with Leia and the actress playing Leia. I'm like, come on, bruh. Like, you're being very bratty, and I know you don't know this guy, but he's the only one trying to break you out and trying to save you, and you're not listening and putting yourself and him and this whole entire operation in jeopardy. Like, she started to become a little bit of a annoying nuisance to me. Um, kind of warmed up, obviously in the later episodes, but yeah, she kind of rubbed me the wrong way in that episode. And initially, from the first episode, like, I was really into the Riva character. I thought,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, she is visceral, and I do like the character. Don't get me wrong. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
she's visceral. I mean, she seems like, in a lightsaber battle, like she can kick some ass. But I kind of thought her arc, essentially became a little bit more predictable, and not that it fell flat, but then it was just kind of like, okay, you're just here for revenge. And
Mm-hmm.
so, to me, like, and then of course too, like, her eventual resolve, like, to me, it didn't feel genuine, and I felt like there was an opportunity to make this character a little bit more badass and possibly, like, continue her on in the storylines, but maybe continue her on as like a rebel leader or something like that. But You know, if they don't continue her on her character, I wouldn't be like too disappointed. But yeah, I thought they could have done better by her character and her
Okay.
sto- and her storyline.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Myron. Because like I kind of feel that that even though you kind of wonder like what was her deal? It's like early on, and then as it became clear, it's like oh, so she's not like completely evil. She just like embraced the dark side in order to get revenge. So I guess you said she became a little bit more less interesting the more we got to know about her, and we realized that she's not going to be like evil. She's gonna be like that evil that can be redeemed. That that Star Wars loves redeeming.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's
Yeah.
like yeah. So the thing is like yeah, if you killed Vader, like would you have all right? I'm gonna go back to the light side, or would you just stay on and like you know lead, like be a leader in the empire? Like I really couldn't tell like you know where besides killing Vader, what where her true goals would lie after that. And it's
She
like,
probably
yeah,
she probably just tried killing all the other like Inquisitors or anyone else she believed that was responsible for for the for the for the suffering that she endured as a kid. She probably would have gone to take on the Emperor next.
right. And it's like, and it's almost like, I almost saw it as like a cheesy foreshadowing, kind of, kind of like Luke, when Luke like went at Vader aggressively in Return of the Jedi and then like cut off his hand. Then he looked at his hand and was like, oh, that's the same, robot hand. I don't want to follow the same path as this guy, and I'm not going to choose the dark side. And then, of course, like when Reva kidnapped Luke and saw him hurt, and she kind of had that little revelation too, like, oh, what am I doing here? Like, I don't. This is the same. This is the same direction I don't want to go in, and this is where
This
I'm
is what was
going.
done to me.
Yeah, yeah, and this is like, okay, we kind of seen that before, but okay, I'll take it. You know,
Okay.
I,
Yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that like she's set up for like like a full redemption arc after this. And to be honest, like I would say I will want to see like if they do a series featuring her after this, I'd watch it because it's like her character her character is like her fate isn't set in stone, so they can kind of go anywhere with her. But at the same time, you can't I want to see like do something like interesting. So, I mean, okay, sure you can fully redeem her, but we kind of expect to see that. I mean, like what if she like embraces the dark side and decides like hey, I'm gonna go and try and murder the emperor who's with me. Oh wait, that would also just be kind of like a foregone conclusion. So, well, surprise me, Disney. That's what I want. Um, I do want to say that I actually didn't mind like child Leia so much. I mean, I can definitely understand like why you were annoyed by her, Myron, and why everyone else would have been. But there's like two big mitigating factors here. One is the fact that she's force sensitive, so it's like you can get the idea that she's like pulling all these like precocious insights from the force to aggravate those around her. So yeah, it's like I can see like how and it's like girls like more knowledgeable. It's like like the kind of annoying smart that writers on these shows like to write. Well, there's actually like an in-universe explanation for that. Second is, well, we've seen Leia in the movies, and I gotta admit that it's like that kind of like bratty arrogant mindset. Well, that's definitely the Leia I remember from the movies. So it's like I can definitely see like she definitely grew into that over the years. So yeah, so I mean, she wasn't compared to something like say Judith Grimes on The Walking Dead. It's like she was. I think this Leia was a lot more tolerable in terms of like precocious like child characters go.
Mm, yeah, I don't know. I kind of side with Myron on this. I think that it's kind of like, well, I did say it originally, so like I said, he was just agreeing with what I had kind of said already. But I don't mind her being in there. It just, it's like, hey, well, if she was force sensitive, then why did you hop on? Why'd you say, hey, let's just hop on this dude's, this, is it like, you know, this transport, you know, and then they pick up a bunch of stormtroopers. I'm like, well, it's not very smart. Um, so if you're going with the flow, as it were, you know, like, okay, now we need to have a little thing, and then okay, it leads to the person you were actually supposed to meet, who is I think she genuinely was an Imperial officer that defected. She was just kind of working in her role to help, help Force sensitives, right?
Right.
I just forget her name. Is it Tala or something like that? Anyway,
Tarla, yeah.
Tarla, yeah, Tarla. So, as for the Riva angle, yeah, I'm gonna agree with you guys on that as well. I think that I think they could have done something better. But it's yeah, and Myron, to your point as well, it was predictable. And the first time I got that impression was sitting there quizzing Leia, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're going on. Like, I'm now starting to get the vibe that you're not who you say you are, and you're not really being like brutal and ruthless. You're just, like, and I'm like, that's where my first suspicions came. But yeah, she was definitely in it for her own thing. So, I think that yeah. What else did you guys? Okay. So I will say this: it appears to me that a lightsaber through the stomach doesn't seem to have mean too much. I'm not sure here. This seems a little weird to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they do show her being stabbed in the stomach with this when she was a youngling. And then later on, when Vader actually does this to her, is this any good? I don't know what I get the impression that it's not very effective for some reason.
I don't remember her getting like stabbed or cut down when she was a kid. She said that she hid amongst the dead.
Yeah, so I was gonna mention that too about the predictability. It's like, okay, so once I found out that, okay, yeah, that was her, because it was pointed out when you see the younglings in the first episode and you see, a little young Reva. It's like, wait a minute, like, how come Vader didn't strike her down? And she did mention that, like you said, Jason, like she hid amongst the dead, kind of pretended she was dead, played possum. But you would think that, like, as strong as Vader was in the Force, knowing that she wasn't dead, would just, oh, she's just pretending, strike her down. And so, like, the fact that she was alive and, joined his ranks, I'm like, okay, that seems pretty suspicious. Like, she either truly embraces this guy's philosophies, even though he murdered all her friends, or she's there to, get revenge on him.
So I kind of watched that scene though, and it looks like that she had a lightsaber thrust inside of her, like when she was a youngling.
But
it didn't look like it was like, oh, it was an accident. Like, and she even mentioned that she thought that that he was coming to save her. Why would they run? Why would she run?
Mm-hmm.
I have to see that scene again because, like I said, I just don't remember that like that happening like the way you're describing. So I guess maybe it did, and I missed it. But man, it's just not registering with me right now.
Like when Vader stabs her.
Oh, you're talking when Anakin. You're talking when Anakin stabbed her when she was a youngling. You said Anakin stabbed her when she was a youngling.
Right, but that's flashbacked when that happens. When Vader stabs her, she flashes back to the same moment.
Remember,
and
Anakin,
they show the same thing.
Anakin had turned to Vader at that point.
Exactly. Right. Basically. Yeah, that's what I'm really saying. Right. So she's a youngling. Anakin's heading her way. She thinks it's that he's there to save her, and he stabs her in the stomach. And at the end of Vader's battle, he stabs her in the stomach, with his red lightsaber.
So maybe as a youngling, because like Jason said, I don't recall that per se. I got to rewatch it, but maybe that was more of a shallow stab. when when she was a youngling.
Yeah, you didn't mean to kill them all away.
I'm guessing
I
like,
don't know. See, that's like that's the question here. It's like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna leave this one sit.
no,
Like
he
it
had
doesn't
a
make
lot in his mind at the time. It's like he just thought like he's just like swinging his arm around. It's like, okay, that one's dead. Move on to the next one. Just had no. He wasn't bothering to confirm the kill. He was just it's like, oh, I'm just killing the younglings, man. Just going around killing them like left and right, man. It's like that.
But
It's-
maybe like a Nosuke from Demon Slayer, Riva has a force ability where she could shift her insides around so that way she can avoid getting hit in vital
oh
organs.
boy.
I don't
That
know.
sounds like mental gymnastics to me. But okay. Okay. All right. Because no one said that. And then I'm thinking, like,
No.
how is she? Okay. I'm like,
I object to your use of Demon Slayer. I would have said like if she was like Mystique from the X-Men and she could just switch her organs around that way.
Yeah.
you know, or
Because
maybe,
You're right.
maybe Darth Maul just knows how to stab people and kill them right.
Maybe
Yep.
because you're right, John. I mean that was a deep because I thought she was gonna die. I was like, oh, this is the big character death of this series. Like she got stabbed deep, like right in the gut, and like when she survived, I'm like, how did this happen? Like, did she
The
keep
Grand Inquisitor even walks away and gloats about it.
Yep. So I was like,
Okay.
oh,
Like,
It's like
it's a done deal. Like you're toast. You traded us. See you later. Have a nice death.
it's like on one hand I can believe that this is like just like a gross oversight on their part. On the other hand, consider the level of contempt that they had for her from the start. It's like they just said like you came from the gutter, not like
Mhm.
us. And so basically consider that maybe like them leaving her alive, like wounded like that. It wasn't meant like they're gonna leaving her to die. They're just like, hey, we really don't care about you. I mean, hey, sure, get better, come back, try to fight us. We'll have another good laugh when we cut you down the next time.
So
It's like,
I get it, but I'm just gonna say it in a little sentence that just kind of makes it like come into clarity here. So you decided to fight Darth Vader, and he stabbed you, and he's like, I'm just not gonna kill you all the way. Does that
Yeah.
make sense to you? Like, this is the man who just maybe a few minutes before pulled a damn ship down with the Force and ripped it open.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
yes,
he was pissed, right?
okay,
yes and no, because it kind of speaks to his arrogance, like in that manner too. Like I don't really have to sit here and waste any more energy finishing you off. You're just gonna die out of bleed out or something like that.
yeah. Or
And
and
so I'm thinking like
consider
Darth
this.
Vader kills to finish to kill, right? Like, oh, you legitimately like, and he was definitely toying with her. I mean, during that fight, right?
Yeah.
Or like consider this. That basically it's like Vader basically had to have been spent after he pulled that ship down and ripped it open, because otherwise he would have done the same for the ship that just immediately took off afterwards.
He just
So it's like
wasn't as angry.
basically Vader was just kind of like he's like inside inside of him he's kind of like damn it. It's like he was just like he's basically like, pushing up against the limit of his powers here, and now he's got, oh great, I got to deal with this other thing. So basically it's like what we're seeing him is just like him just like mustering every little bit he could to to take her down and not die himself.
Well,
But he's putting on a face, it's like just
So you remember that part where he pulls her lightsaber by force, splits it in half, and that's the thing. He doesn't even use his own lightsaber.
Nah.
Okay, I don't think it's a weakness of the Force here. I don't think it's a weakness on his behalf. I think he's like quite strong. In fact,
No,
I don't think it wore him out. That's what I'm saying. It's the thing.
Hey, I'm trying to make this scene work. So
no, his weakness is his arrogance, because obviously we see again that he's the type of guy that kicks some ass and doesn't stick around to make sure the job is done. Because look at his battle with Obi Wan, dude. He threw some rocks on him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he's dead. I finally took him out." And then all of a sudden he stops, and who's coming up behind him? Obi Wan. So it goes to show you, like, dude, like don't. I know you're strong, bro, but you need to make sure, like, if you're gonna battle someone in order to like really take them out, make sure that they're dead. Stick around and finish the job.
Yeah. Yes. And he understood it. He understood her role, evidently from the very beginning. So,
So he says, yeah.
yeah, it's like okay. So, I mean, I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting thing. So, the other things that I would bring up, just as kind of like, they'll be my nits. Okay, like I said, I like the series, but so my other nit would be like, kind of. I've seen some of the plays in this before. Do I mind that? Not necessarily. I'm not offended by it. But, you know, um, do you remember in A New Hope when they escaped the Death Star?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And what does Leia say? They let us go. Why'd they let us go? Because they're tracking us.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what they did in this series. It's the same play, right? Do I have a problem with that? It's different. You're using her little droid robot, evil droid robot.
Mm-hmm.
Do I mind the same place? We actually do see this in Star Wars a few times, so it's not. I don't think it's offensive. It's just kind of like, okay,
It's a
well,
common
that's maybe.
tactic.
Yeah, maybe that's where she got it from,
Mm-hmm.
like the idea from, right? So,
Oh, while you're talking about
and
callbacks,
huh?
while you're talking about callbacks, did you get like the end of Empire Strikes Back vibes from the start of Episode 6 when they're like when Vader's Star Destroyer is chasing down the
Yes. Oh,
this-
yeah. Yes. And I got vibes of the same thing that he was trying to do before, which was leave, like, okay, I'll distract him and leave in a little ship. I'll distract him and leave. And they just want me, so it's the same play twice, right? But yeah, I did totally get that vibe. I was like, and by the way, I didn't care. I was like, okay, cool. But it's interesting. You're drawing him away twice for the same reason.
Shows
Because
him
they're
shows that he
evil.
learned. It shows that he learned nothing.
Yeah, it's like you should have just split off anyway. Maybe they would have just chased you and let all those survivors fly out and whatever. Force sensitives. I think they're supposed to be force sensitives in that group because that's a part of like they're smuggling people to safety thing, right?
Mhm.
Force
Mm-hmm.
sensitive. Yeah. So
Because they're
um
basically hunting force sensitives, like throughout the galaxy. Not only Jedi, but anyone who could potentially be the Jedi and not part of the Empire.
yep. Well, you got to have a strong hold on it if you're the Sith controlling everything. You don't need there's two things you don't want: Jedi to uprise or some other Sith to come out and take you out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing that
Disgusting.
I think that's another thing that kind of annoyed me too was the Inquisitors. Because yeah,
Ah,
they're little Vader's little secret, little force sensitive little Sith army, not necessarily maybe full blown Sith lords, but they've bent to the dark side and do his will. But I don't know. I found them kind of annoying in this series because at least for
hmm,
me, my exposure to the Inquisitors has been through Rebels and
mhm,
through Jedi Fallen Order, and I've always
mhm,
saw them as kind of like you know Sith like bounty hunters. Like when an Inquisitor came along, it's like, oh shit, you're in trouble. But I don't know. They just bickered a lot, like in this series. Like, oh dude, I'm tired of you guys, like whining about Riva trying to take you know the mantle, and you guys are trying to fight for Lord Vader's favor. It just felt like bickering siblings trying to
mhm,
vie for
mhm.
daddy's love. That kind of annoyed me.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's like it kind of strikes me as like this is the kind of bad guy bickering that evil people do. So I get what you're saying, but it's like this kind of like this pettiness. Like it makes sense for these people who've embraced villainy as they're calling.
Yeah, but I felt like it dragged in every episode. It's like, oh, come on, dude. Like, again. Like,
What is it? I forget them all. Is it Fifth Brother? Is that who it is?
I
I forget.
I
But
forgot their numbers.
yeah, it's just like he's always complaining about her.
Mhm.
And then and I was like, the first thing I thought when I saw, what is it? Is it second sister? Is that who Reva is? When I saw
Third
Reva,
sister.
okay,
She's
third
third
sister.
sister.
Third sister, because second sister, was she in Rebels or is she also in the video game
I want to say that's
or
the
not?
one. I
In
want to say
Rebels or in the video game? I don't know. Screw
I
it.
can't I can't remember.
Yeah, screw it. Immaterial anyway. So um yeah, so I mean, when I saw her, I was like, I don't recognize this one. Who's this? So I didn't mind. I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. That's fine. But yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, and then when we saw like how her character art started, moving, I was like, oh, okay, all right. So there's something else here. But we kind of already knew like the Grand Inquisitor used to be like a Jedi temple, like what was he exactly in Rebels? I mean, you did see that flashback where they go to that Jedi temple, and he's in what's his name's vision there, and he has to fight him.
He is like a temple guard,
Temple guard or priest or something like that, right?
Yeah, he was in Kanan's vision.
Yep. So, um, regardless, I think, yeah, that I think, yeah, it I think that the bickering, I agree with Jason's point on it. Yeah, it's kind of like you do kind of expect that, but then it was kind of like, yeah, that you know, they're just kind of doing that. And then, Reva's intentions might have even been more revealed, like when she's talking, like when Obi-Wan starts to figure it out, I think, through the door. If you remember that part.
Mhm.
I was like, she wants to talk to you.
Mhm.
Anyway, so so he's like, you want revenge or something. I couldn't remember that. Anyway, so the good things I will say, I think we've kind of focused on the nits a little bit here, but I do like the lightsaber fight at the end. I like the fact that I do like how Obi-Wan and Darth Vader fight at the end, and then you do see, you see, I think it's amazing actually. The part where he kind of gets the upper hand and he
Mhm.
slashes part of his helmet off, and you
Mhm.
hear him talking, and I think that's kind of, I think that's a good scene, because you really get a sense of like, okay, yeah, well, and it's Hayden Christensen, right? So
Yeah.
you do get that good, you get that good sense of like, okay, yeah, well, this is the same guy, but he's not the same guy, and the thing he says is pretty relevant.
Yeah, I thought that was like the most powerful scene in the movie. This is the second time we ever see Vader get his like face slashed like that.
Hmm.
And I remember watching a YouTube video kind of going over the history of Vader, but
Mm,
we see this happen with Ahsoka in Rebels where she fights Vader in the Sith Temple, and now we see this with Obi-Wan. And I thought
mhm.
that was such a powerful scene where like, yeah, Obi-Wan kind of has that visual confirmation like, man, this is Anakin, because I'm looking deep into his eyes, and you see Obi-Wan well up, and I think this is kind of part of his like um not revelation, but his way to let
Realization.
his what
Realization.
realization, yeah, his realization to kind of let go, because he starts welling up and he's like, I'm so sorry, Anakin. And Anakin or Vader's like, you don't have to apologize, Obi-Wan, you didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did. And when he said that, I was like, damn, dude, like that is just like so cold to say right there. And I
And
think
yet, yeah, go on.
I was gonna say like that. I think that kind of helped Obi-Wan to be a little bit more free and kind of re-embrace like the Force a little bit more. Just because, as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, John, I mean, Obi-Wan, I think, felt betrayed by his faith because
Mhm.
Jedi are taught to, conquer their feelings, and of course, like, they thought Anakin was the chosen one and put all their faith into him, and then to be let down like that, obviously, I could see how that could be traumatic for him, to where he just left the order completely and just left, practicing and being in tune with the Force after that. Obviously, this adventure kind of forces him to try to re-embrace that, but then his conflict with Vader was that I guess final piece that was kind of holding him back, and to finally have that let go and lifted off of his soul allowed him to like become a little bit more stronger and get, as Jason would say, get his groove back.
And also remember when he leaves him there, he says, "Goodbye, Darth." It's like
Yes,
he's finally
there are two
accepted who his friend is there.
Yeah,
Who
there's
he's
two
become.
things there. I'm sorry, go on ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, he's basically finally accepted who his friend has become.
Yeah. So both of those things that he says dovetails right into two things he says in A New Hope.
Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father.
Yes. And then the second thing is like when, and I'm sure that it was a script thing, like because, A New Hope was never really originally A New Hope. It was just Star Wars, right? So, but in there, he calls him, "You're nothing but a master of evil, Darth," or something like that. He just calls him Darth, like that's his first name, right?
Yeah.
But for him to call him Darth here, just kind of like lends credence that that's what he wanted to call him, right? Like he's like, yeah, I intentionally meant that, So. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, again, I'll reiterate, the lightsaber battling in this series, like the first Darth Vader battle in the kind of like the mining area. I mean, that was dope. But I mean, this battle is kind of like the true follow up to the Mustafar battle. You know what I mean? It's like Obi-Wan, slash his leg is off, and you know, uh, left him crippled. And it's like, all right, dude, give me like 24 hours for me to get rebuilt, and let's have our rematch. And this is that rematch I never really expected to see. Now, I had this conversation with a couple of friends, kind of like the inconsistencies of the storyline. I mean, I don't really, mind it, but someone brought up to me like, hey, remember in A New Hope when Obi-Wan and Vader fought, and Vader was like, the last time we met, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. So that line right there makes you think like, yeah, the last time they fought was, as, not Jedi's, but, when Anakin became Vader and they fought on Mustafar. And you get that impression like that's the last time they saw each other. But
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
No,
Oh,
no,
no. What I was gonna say is that we have those really cool and somewhat interesting scenes of Anakin and Obi-Wan sparring. And I think that those scenes were not only meant to like color this story, but to also lend to that statement. That's my 2 cents. And the reason why is because it's like, okay, yeah, definitely Obi-Wan was showing his weaknesses there. And the same thing happened again. And it was like, okay, now, it's like, here it is. I know your weakness. And now he can, he's like, I'm now that. Although he's no longer his master. It's something like he had to like kind of get over. And we kind of forget about the progression of like, it's like, okay, yeah, well, he's completely sold to the dark side, but he's conflicted. He's always been conflicted. There's always that in Darth Vader. We don't necessarily see that all the time, like especially a lot like in like, well, yeah, actually you do see it. You do see it in Empire Strikes Back. But you do, that's the inference here, right? So at least that's what I wanted to say about it.
Yeah, and maybe Jason can kind of speak to this more because I never read the whole thing, but the Charles Soule Darth Vader series, I think is volume 2 of the Marvel Darth Vader, actually dives deeper into that kind of inner conflict he has with himself, like how because that series picks up where you know he dons the suit, and one of his first tasks is to hunt a Jedi down to get his crystal and build his lightsaber and everything. And so like during that journey though, he has these visions in which like he sees himself betraying the Emperor and renouncing his Sith ways and asking Obi-Wan for forgiveness and everything like that. And so he like you said, John, he does have that. It seems like he's always had that struggle, with that conflict of what he truly is deep down in his heart. He is a good person, but he's gone so deep down the rabbit hole, the dark side. It's like, hey, I made my choices and I made my bed and I have to sleep in it, to where it's almost like he's driven and has no choice. Like the love of his life is dead. He betrayed his order and his friends, and now his true master is, Palpatine, and he's got to, stick to his guns to it. So,
yeah, I know what you're saying about the that Star Wars, that second Vader series. I think that kind of stuff comes closer into focus in the final, it's like in the final arc when he's building his fortress on Mustafar. Even though I think the vision quest he has to wrap things up, I think it's like it was kind of meant to like show like this is where Anakin is right now. But in reading it did kind of feel like it was just kind of like maybe being a bit too esoteric or arty for its own sake. At least that's how I remember it. I mean, I like the series because it did a good job of like finding a good thing for Vader to struggle against. That was his inexperience at being Darth Vader, and the series is just kind of like him showing us how he basically became, the villain that we know. But I don't know. It's like I know people have talked about this like having some relevance to the Obi Wan like a series. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's essential reading. Like it's like in that regard. Maybe there's some insights to be gleaned, but not a whole lot really. But for me though, the one comic book reference that got me in this series was when he mentioned Quinlan Vos in the third episode. Yeah, because when he's in that secret room and he mentions Quinlan, and it's like I was like, oh man, because well, Quinlan was one of the characters that was created for the comics. It's like, and he was basically an amnesiac Jedi when we're first introduced to him. So he has this connection to the Force, but he just doesn't know how to use it because he has no idea who he is, and he's forgotten all of his training. First couple of miniseries dealt with him getting his memory back in his training, but there's always this question that hey, he actually came pretty close to the dark side when he was running around just using the Force to find out like get his identity back, and that basically gave the Jedi Council the idea that hey, you know what? Let's have him go undercover with the Separatists because he's kind of close to the dark side himself, but he's not. But he's still be working for us. And the Clone Wars comics that Dark Horse published, it's like after this, like what was it? Yeah, after the second movie, just did a really good job of like playing with like his allegiances because even though you get the feeling that that Voss was just like a character who just gone a bit too far undercover. You really couldn't be sure, like until we got to the final arcs, and everything was made clear. These for me were like my favorite Star Wars comics that Dark Horse published. So and also most of them were written by John Ostrander with art by Jan Duursema. They've been republished by, I believe most of them have been republished by Marvel at this point. But still, I realize this is just like hey, he's just saying a name here. But I hear this and I think, hey, come on, man, it's like bring him back. It's like I want to see my favorite Jedi character from the expanded universe brought back into the modern era.
So with that though, from that Dark Horse comic line, which is what you would consider Legends now, just by mentioning that name possibly means like they're absorbing some of those Legends storylines into the canon lore.
Oh, they've been doing that for a while now. That's why Grand Admiral Thrawn has been back.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they keep pulling from the well.
Yeah.
They can take all the best stuff and just leave the dubious stuff behind.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so with that though too, like I didn't catch anything in it, but I think it was episode 4 when Obi-Wan went in that Inquisitor Inquisitor base to save Leia, and there was that Jedi.
Oh, come on, Myron. You should have recognized that base.
Uh, I didn't. I mean,
Which
where is it
one?
from?
You mean the ones that were in the amber-like stuff, or then
Yes.
they
Oh
look
no,
like they were suspended?
no, I mean
Mhm.
like the base itself.
Was it
Because I've
from?
been there.
Yeah. What is it from?
Right.
The
Yeah.
game. The game.
Yeah, Jedi
That's the
Fallen Order.
Yeah, the same. Oh, is that the same one? Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember that was an underwater base as well. I didn't know if it was the same one, but yeah, that Amber Jedi graveyard. I was looking hard to see if I recognized any figures or anything from any of the other series. I couldn't catch anybody.
There was one.
Did you guys see one?
Yes.
Who
Um,
or
do you
what?
remember? Do you remember the episode where Ahsoka has to find her lightsaber with the librarian
In what Clone Wars?
in Clone Wars? Yes.
No, I haven't finished all of Clone Wars.
Okay, there you go. Then that's what's his name? I forgot his name right off the top of the bat. That's him. It's an older Jedi. His lightsaber. He has a cane that his lightsaber. That's part of his lightsaber in that episode. And I don't know if that's the same in the comic, Jason, or not.
I oh, it's like if we're talking about who again?
The librarian. So in the
Oh.
amber.
I did not. No, I did not. I actually didn't recognize anyone in the. It's like in the
Oh
Amber.
wow. Okay, yeah. So that's totally him. So that's the only one I recognize, though. The only one. I just forget the guy. Oh wow. Okay, so I'm having a conversation with myself.
Wow.
So yeah.
I let you down.
That's no worries. No worries. It's okay. Yeah, I've seen all of the Clone Wars, and yeah, that's it. Yeah. So Ahsoka loses her lightsaber in this episode, and then I forget. She gets paired with I forget the name of this Jedi's name. He's an older Jedi. He kind of walks, he walks with the cane. Of course, the cane has his lightsaber, and it's Oh, I want to just. I wish I could tell you the name, but I don't remember it off the top of my head.
I'm sure there's a listener screaming the name right now, and unfortunately,
sure there is.
Sorry, peeps, we can't hear you, but yeah, we're just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah, it's cool, but I was like, it's totally it's been identified through other videos as well. So if you just do a quick search, you'll be able to see it. But yeah,
I am.
Yeah, it's I was like, oh, yeah, that's it. Yep. So, but the episode is one of those Clone Wars episodes that's kind of interesting, and I don't know. It's not like one of those Clone Wars episodes that I hate. It's also not one of those that I love. So we'll put it that way. But it definitely serves its purpose. So. The fact that they poured that they took that old guy and they used it, I was like, oh, okay.
It's like I'm looking this up on Fansided, and it says the first and most prominent face we see is a lanky Kosian who has white braids dangling on either side of their face. This is strongly believed to be Tara Sinube.
Yep.
A Jedi who featured in several episodes of the Clone Wars animated series, most notably, as you mentioned, a season 2 episode called Lightsaber Lost, where the kindly old Jedi helped Ahsoka Tano reclaim her lightsaber after it was stolen by a criminal on Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go back and watch that. I haven't seen, because I stopped watching Clone Wars, I think, after it got canceled on Cartoon Network, and I haven't watched it since, even though everything's up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's thanks to Disney Plus, I was able to just round it all out.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it good watching. So let me see. Yeah. So Yep, for sure. So, but that's kind of creepy nonetheless.
Mhm.
And I'll say it's creepy because it's like, what the hell's going on here? So, it's like, so there's been speculation. Okay, is it a trophy room? Or is there something else going on? I think the other thing that I've heard is like it has to do with like the cloning, like like Darth Sidious is cloning. Uh, but then there's another theory. Do you remember when they? Okay, this will be in Rebels, Myron.
Mhm.
When they were led into a trap, and they had a Jedi in a coffin. I just don't remember what her name was. And they were using like part of her, they were projecting, you know, and I guess that this was it
Was, was it Unduli? She had like dots on her face. I think green.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
And they said she was being held prisoner, and so some people have speculated that that even though like that Jedi, even if they're dead, their bodies still have like an essence in them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really like I'm just kind of like I'm quoting something that I heard, and I don't even know if it's true, honestly. But I'm like, okay, because I have zero idea why we would, do that. And Obi-Wan gives zero indication, like maybe I should free them or something. Like that doesn't even cross his mind in the show. So I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I guess they're just dead, and they're there for some reason, and we don't know what reason. So
Yeah, because obviously, like when a Jedi or possibly even any Force sensitive person dies, they don't always like come back as Force ghosts. I think that seems to be an ability that has to be learned.
yeah, like Qui-Gon.
Yeah, which was
Oh, speaking of which, he did show up at the end of this series. So
which was quite the surprise. I was like,
yeah,
oh, like when I heard that voice, I was like, oh snap, dude, he finally showed up.
yeah, it was really Liam Neeson too. It was like his
Yep.
voice. It was him.
Like
Whether it was him, like that was as actual image and stuff, I couldn't tell you. But
and again, I thought that was another powerful statement, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but do you remember what Obi-Wan said when he saw him? He's like, "How come you haven't shown yourself to me before?" And he's like, "You weren't ready." And I was like, "Oh man, that's so deep," because it's like if you remember at the end of episode 3, Yoda mentioned like, an old friend's on Tatooine and I'll train you how to commune with him. But obviously Obi-Wan has lost his faith in the Force, so he couldn't even begin to, commune with Qui-Gon. So I thought that was really cool. Like once Obi-Wan got his groove back, his master presented himself at the very end.
Exactly. It's like that's how you know that the groove it had returned.
And I thought I did read somewhere that it actually was Liam Neeson because I thought I read a quote somewhere where he was like, "Yeah, I didn't want to come back for this, but then when they wanted to bring the character back, I couldn't imagine any other person, playing him." So
yeah,
Disney's got a big enough checkbook. I'm sure they just wrote him a big enough one to come back for like this one day of filming that he needed, like for this one scene.
he's like,
yeah.
"Yeah, I really don't need to come back because I got all this Taken money, but if Ewan and Hayden are on board, and Mickey Mouse has a bigger checkbook, I'll come back for like 10, 15 minutes."
Why not?
Mhm.
I've got 5 minutes to spare. Well, it was while it was less than 5 minutes of screen time and stuff. There was probably less than a day of stuff that he ever had to do. That seems like small potatoes.
Yeah, it was probably like 10 to 15 minutes of like reshoots and then just kicking it all day. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's not a bad day's worth of work.
Nope, I'd
Mhm.
do that. I'd do that. So were there any other like contradictions or plot holes that you guys saw, or what I would say, like um anything that you, I guess canon wise, whatever that means, that you saw in this that was a problem? I mean, I know that the Grand Inquisitor, well, that, like, I know people were bitching about that originally, and I think originally, Jason, my comment to you, because we kind of talked a little bit about that, was like, nah, it's not really a big problem for me. I think it's a problem, but and then it was resolved as like, oh, okay. Well, there was always that possibility. But do you think that they kind of kept it or didn't, and if it was important at all or didn't care, didn't notice it?
Oh, the only other plot hole I wanted to bring up was, I was just amazed at how fast Third Sister was able to get to Tatooine, after getting stabbed in the gut, and like while like Obi-Wan was being chased by Vader, apparently at the same time, this was happening. So
Yeah.
I guess light speed, it's a hell of a thing.
Yeah. Light speed's fast. So yeah. Yeah, after, you know what? Pointing that out, I didn't even notice that, but you're spot on right. And whoops, okay. So that happened. I guess it didn't bother me that much because I didn't even notice it. But you have a good point there. By the way, I would have to say for my only complaint is the pacing of. I mean, it feels like the last episode feels like an epilogue to me. Like, and they're just, they're tying up the Riva arc. That's what it just feels like, right? And yeah, that's I guess that's all right. That's not really a plot hole or anything. It's just that's more of like a, hey, that's like for me it's like okay, here's the whole story kind of a thing. I don't know, maybe maybe not. Maybe I'm really not thinking about it in the correct way. I don't know. But overall I think it's all right. It all fits in. And I guess the question is like, and maybe I even had this question. It's like, well, is Obi-Wan really supposed to know Leia that well? Okay.
I just kind of assumed that this is also when it was revealed that like he was gonna be rescuing her. Like this is like the series is gonna be telling. Oh, so this is the story of help me, Obi Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah. So there is the other thing there. Like at the end, Obi-Wan tells her, what, you can't tell anyone or something like that. So maybe she just kind of keeps it in the back, this whole incident in the back of her mind, which is interesting. But honestly, I don't care about that. That to me doesn't bother me one bit, honestly. I'm like, okay, so she said it. Like if you listen to the holo recording R2D2 plays in A New Hope and you listen to it and you're like, okay, she's asking for help. Years ago, I believe the line was, years ago, you helped my father in the Clone Wars, and now he's asking for your help again. Like, it's a very formal request, kind of the way she formats it. I don't know if I care. It's like, okay, even if in the back of her mind, it's like, oh yeah, Obi-Wan, right? Okay.
The guy who tried to save you while kicking and screaming.
Right, exactly. Like, remember when I was running through that little marketplace on that planet? Yeah, that Obi-Wan. So, again, no, that doesn't really bother me too much. Or the other thing I think that is commonly pointed out, we did talk a little bit about, like that whole line about, I was when we last met, I was the learner, now I am the master. Da 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 da. Okay. It's kind of minor, and I think that they've addressed it enough in here.
Yeah,
I'm good enough with that explanation. Not really anything that need to be to explain. So I think when it comes to like continuity and canon, even though I'm not as rigid on the canon thing, I think it gets a B. I mean, it's fine. I don't think anything else is there. My only other complaint about the series is just its whole, it's like, okay, it's kind of slow, kind of weird in the beginning, and then it kind of picks up more towards the end, but stuff you would expect. The battles, the effects the look of it's fantastic. I'm not gonna lie to you about that, right? Like it looks great. I love seeing the Star Destroyer. I mean, Darth Vader looks Darth Vadery, so I don't know what else you're supposed to say about that. Any final thoughts about this series? Do you wish for more?
I'd watch more. It's like, though, like you kind of wonder like where they're actually going to go with this. I mean, just are we just going to see like what else Obi-Wan was up to on Tatooine, or are we going to see him like go off planet on another secret mission? But yeah, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen have both said that they'd be up for more of this, which it's nice, but at the same time, like, it's kind of hard to see what like where the series like go from here. I mean, like third sister Reva has a like her character has a future, but I probably see them spinning off her character into its own series sooner than I could getting a proper full on sequel for this.
Yeah, she's got a lot of ground to cover if she's going to be a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I would like to see, maybe she'll show up in an Ahsoka series. Maybe, well, wait, but that would happen, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Yeah, that could happen. I could see that. That would work. So yeah, I think overall, enjoyable. Not wow enjoyable. Like, whoa. I thought that the end battle was probably its strongest thing, with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. I think most people just wanted to see that. And but wow, no, necessary. It's a good story to shove in there. So would I like to see more? Yes.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I remember hearing this announcement many years ago, rumor that possibly working on an Obi-Wan movie or series for Disney Plus, and I'm like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But the thought in my head of its potential, like, yeah, I really hope this is happening and not all talk. And I'm glad we finally got it. And I agree. I kind of agree with your score, John. To me, I probably give it more of a B plus. There were some really cool moments I love seeing, like not to sound dark, but Vader's ruthlessness. When he walked in that town and looking for looking for Obi-Wan, and just what he did to the innocent folks to just draw him out. I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't care. And seeing that first initial fight and then seeing this final fight, I mean, it was just awesome. I love kind of seeing, and I was trying to tie this in with like Rebels and other parts of the timeline, like kind of seeing basically the beginnings of the rebellion. I think Rebels was the first time I've actually seen like an Imperial, uh, officer, betray that, who seemed pretty hardcore about the cause, actually betray and realize what he was serving was, total BS, and decided to join and help the rebels. I can't remember his name from that series, but that's the first time I saw, Imperial officer, side with the rebels. And now we see it again in live action with Tala in this series. And I enjoyed kind of seeing the beginnings of the rebellions in this. Do I want more of this Obi-Wan series? Like, yeah, sure, I would love to see more. However, I think I want to see just more Vader. I want like a Vader show.
There's some interesting points there. I have to say that, because if you were going to go on like Obi-Wan show, like continue with following Obi Wan Kenobi, there's a really good chance you probably wouldn't see much Vader. It seems like he's like at the end of this is just like kind of not doing this anymore, not following one. Now I'm just gonna, take care of the rest of the galaxy, because he flat out turned that Star Destroyer to the left. He's like, let's go, to chase one Jedi. And he's just like, not any Jedi. So
and after he licked his wounds and left, why not continue on back to fight Obi-Wan? Like the next time you see him is A New Hope. Like you just gave up after that, and so oh,
Yeah.
and we didn't even make mention either. Like yeah, we got Ian. What's his last name?
Ian McDermott.
McDermott.
Thank you. Yeah, we got Palpatine back in a little cameo, and he brought up some points too. Like, do you think your feelings are clouding your judgment? My friend. Basically, telling him like your obsession with hunting Obi-Wan like is clouding your growth and clouding your judgment. And Vader, flat out said, that part of my life is dead. Like I've let go, and I don't know. I think this is just a fanboy talking, but I kind of want to see you know Vader's Jedi hunting moments in live action. I'm sure a lot of that is covered in the series of Marvel comics that have been released throughout the years, but not a lot of people have exposure or even dabble in that medium as much. So I think it'd be interesting to see at least one more, maybe one more show with some more Vader exposure
Yeah.
and more Vader fights.
I see what you mean, but on one hand, Vader's is kind of like like a character that's kind of tough to use well, because I think his biggest strength is his indomitability. Like the fact that when you see Vader, you're like you're kind of screwed. I mean, when he was walking down the town and choking people left and right. I mean, yeah, it's like that I'm with you on that scene. That worked because like you just knew that no, there's nothing anyone could do about that. Same, and also that scene where he just brings down the ship and just wrenched it open. It's like, God damn! It's like and then when he just toys with Third Sister in that fight. I mean, it's just like I said, that's I think the kind of Vader's appeal as a character there. And it's kind of tough to find a way to make him struggle, like without reducing that that sense of indomitability. I mean, like the more you use him, the more you kind of feel like, oh man, it's like what can we like put him up against now? It's like how do we find a new way to make him struggle without making him seem weak?
Possibly. I mean, but there's got to be other Jedi out there that he's hunting that could possibly like give him somewhat of a challenge. Obviously, we know he's going to dominate over him, but those are kind of like the stepping stones and the lessons he learns as he dives deeper into the dark side and becomes more menacing. Like these once known powerful Jedis that we probably never even seen or heard of before, that have escaped Order 66. He has to personally go and challenge because they're too formidable for the Inquisitors. I mean, again, referencing Jedi Fallen Order, even though he was no challenge per se. And spoiler alert again, folks. But when Cal Kestis, after you defeat, that whatever numbered sister, and Vader comes out and kills her, and again to your point, Jason, like Vader's so menacing, like Cal can't face him, and he has to like
That's why the fight. That's why the fight against Vader in the game is basically a bunch of quick time events.
Exactly, like you just have to get out, and of course, like Cal is an untrained raw Padawan basically whose master died during the Order 66, so he's not fully trained, so he would be an easy kill. But I have to believe that there's some other masters out there that possibly survive that could possibly give like a maybe 5-6 episode struggle that kind of propels Vader's tyranny across the universe. So I don't know.
Can I add something there? We never actually did see Mace Windu's body.
That is true. That's been the talk. That's been a big discussion in fan theory videos and things I've come across. If that's going to happen, no disrespect, Mr. Sam Jackson. That's my dog, but he's getting up there. So got to do something quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do something quick.
He'd look about right if you said it. If you said it in the right period, right?
That what? That's true. That is true. Another thing, about more Obi-Wan. Like if they did more Obi-Wan, unfortunately, I think they can't do it now because this was kind of covered in Rebels. But I think an opportunity for the Darth Maul Obi-Wan rematch would have been so awesome in live action, but obviously we saw that rematch pretty quickly in Rebels. So I don't know if that's something they could spin. Maybe Obi-Wan had a run-in with him at one point when he was doing his gangster, his mob gangster ties on Tatooine, but I don't know. We'll see.
Tatooine, where everything happens.
But
Yeah.
but as a
Biggest little dust ball in the galaxy.
Yeah.
As a Star Wars fan, I feel like these shows are kind of working a little bit more for them. As much as we've enjoyed the films or hated the films, depending on your perspective of either one of the Skywalker trilogy movies, taking a break from the movies and kind of giving us these bite-sized stories that correlate to the entire lore. They've really worked out for them, and they've been on a roll, especially Mando. So obviously we know we have more on the way, but yeah, I like to see what other projects they have in mind. After Ahsoka and Andor and what Mando season 3, just to name a few.
Yep. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. So yeah, so if they decide to produce more for for Obi-Wan, I will definitely watch it. I kind of hope that they do the Ahsoka series soon, honestly, but I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I feel 2024.
Is that what it is?
I mean, they gave no date, but realistic expectations, I'm thinking 2024, maybe 2020. Nah, because I think Mando's supposed to come out next year, so maybe.
Yeah.
And is Andor coming out this year?
Yeah, I think Andor should be out by the end of the summer, I think.
I don't know. Maybe 2023 for Ahsoka. Maybe they'll launch Mando and Ahsoka that same year. Maybe we can get a Yoda show too, and it'll just be like his
Yoda.
Remember they've also got the Lando show coming as well.
Lando.
Yeah, I heard that they managed to get Donald Glover to come back for this.
Oh, that's okay.
Interesting indeed. Cool. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted this one. So yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job here of reviewing it and taking a look at it. And if you haven't seen it, well, we just told you all about the show, so you might want to watch it.
Yeah,
so
it did a pretty good job making a little money off of me.
yeah. Correct. And I'm sure that what's his name? Ewan McGregor made a few dollars off of this himself. So and Hayden Christensen made a few dollars off of this one, I have to say. So if Disney wants to open up their wallet and pay them more, hey, go for it. We'll watch it. We'll review it right here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Cool. Look, did you guys say something else, Myron?
I was like, yeah, just give me a Obi-Wan Legacy lightsaber. That's all I want right now.
He's like, I want that. Yeah, same here. All right. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Right.
Have
Later,
a good
everyone.
weekend, kiddies.